Hi everyone, our project is Immigration Form Assistant via voice-to-text AI.
Hello, my name's Javier Dominguez.
Hi, my name is Daniel Martinez.
Hello, my name is Jesus Ramos.
My name is Caitlin Suspillo.
My name's Gerardo Solis.
So the problem. Many individuals find immigration forms complex, which can lead to mistakes or delays. This can be, for example, by having a Spanish speaker, or they may not understand a form that's fully written in English, which can then happen to have these mistakes or delays. This can be an issue as this can push back the progress than rather moving forward. And also, this is also an issue because on average, it usually takes 4 hours to complete. So by having these mistakes and delays, it could take longer than that. Also, many individuals lack both the familiarity with and access to the necessary technology to complete these documents. This can be, for example, as we're moving to technology, these forms are now being written to PDFs. So by not having either a laptop or access to internet, it could be harder to complete these documents.
So the solution to our problem is to create a voice-to-text AI system to assist with the forms. It would take 15 to 20 minutes for an attorney to review them compared to the longer time mentioned in the previous slide. This system would be accessible via any device that can make phone calls, which would make it easier for users to use it. It'd be more user-friendly and accessible, and it'd be used in their native language to make it overall much easier in general.
So our original plan was divided into 2 week blocks. The first 2 weeks was purely research, which is researching our essential tools. We each got assigned our own tool, had research and delved into what it did and how it worked. I was tasked with researching traffic, which was a reverse proxy that would basically make our database and anything that we hosted on this reverse proxy to be safe because it wasn't exposed to the internet or any web service. It was just on its own Docker file.
Jesus and I were both tasked with researching Directus, which is where our database is located. We researched the documentation on it, how to utilize the API, authentication, as well as how to pull information and add information on top of that.
I was tasked with working with DeepGram. So originally, I was researching how DeepGram worked was directed on that as it's an AI that works with the API in order for it to receive these user responses and then send a text to the user response in order for the user to answer these questions.
I was assigned with researching Copy Party, which was a file server so that we can store all the audio files and integrate it with Dgram.
And then after the first 2 weeks, we moved on to the environment implementation, where we took each of our tools and made modular tasks with them. Where for traffic, for example, we did a modular task of a Docker file, which is a little server thing for traffic. And we did the same thing for Directus. And then after this was supposed to be our 3CX integration. But during week 5 and 6, it became apparent that we weren't gonna get the credentials needed for 3CX. So we decided to pivot in a different direction where we started using directives more than we were gonna use 3CX. Because 3CX was our flow where the phone call would go through, but we didn't have the right tools for that. And so we couldn't do the testing, we couldn't do the proper presentation for our original plan.
So as mentioned previously, we researched all the tools that we would be using for our project. Although we didn't get to utilize every single tool, we were able to understand how they all come together to develop the final project.
And this was to the implementations we did, such as using Directus for the database. and the PDF reader and writer for these fields into the PDF.
So as previously stated, we were going to initially integrate our own version of 3CX, but instead we used an existing model provided by our mentor. We also, due to time constraints, we decided to implement all our backend using directives. And we also used some Amazon Web Services to create virtual environments for our PuTTY access, as well as using Python as our main language and utilizing packages and libraries to read and write the PDF files used to store the void text information for the PDF files. We also use Postman and to test and store retrieving data from our database.
So this is a diagram of how calling the system works to fill out the PDF. So the user calls the specific phone number and it goes to 3CX, and then 3CX responds with the integrated virtual response. And then the user just keeps responding to those questions, and then those responses are sent to DeepGrams so that those answers can be transcribed. And then those transcribed answers are going to our database, which is Directus. And then off of that, this is where we come in and fill out the PDF using the database. And then on the right is one of the pages, one of the, I think, 12 pages that the user is supposed to fill out. And you can see how complex it is. And if they lack the resources, it'll be especially difficult to fill out.
So this is some of the information that we learned. We now understand how independent tools can create a cohesive system. All the tools that we use all come together to develop our final deliverables. We also learn how to alter metadata to create mirror copies with new field names to integrate into our database. We also utilize various Python modules and libraries that we had to research and understand to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. We also learn how to extract and modify data from the complicated immigration forms that we use from each page. And finally, we learned how to use Directus and integrate PDFs using APIs. Thank you to our sponsor Latinan and our advisor Andres. Thank you for supporting us and allowing us to create something that will support our community.